I'm Kylie Montigny, your host of the Talk of Fame podcast, and I'm having a lovely guest today. And she's been doing music for a couple of years now, and I'm seriously loving her music for the last couple of months. And if you didn't know, I love to support a variety of different independent artists and spotlight them on the podcast to get their story out there and hear what it's like for them as independent artists. And by the way, today is actually one of those episodes of the podcast where I get to spotlight one of those artists, believe it or not. But today we are spotlighting Izzy Potter, who is a singer-songwriter currently based in Nashville, Tennessee, with roots in New York. She's an independent artist with universally relatable, poignant, and often personal lyrics. Her first released EP, Place Called Home, has her most requested high-energy single, Juniper, to play live. Izzy's lyrics have been depth and insight that is both playful and intriguing, and has been remarked as spot on for such a young talent. Her storytelling is evoked with the spirit of acoustic pop folk style sounds. Her storytelling style is often compared to artists like Taylor Swift, Julia Michaels, Noah Kahan, Fleetwood Mac, and Phoebe Bridgers. She has been songwriting since she was about 12 years old and was recognized by NSAI songwriting evaluators as one to watch. In New York, Izzy can be found anywhere around town playing with local bands such as a Bowery Ballroom New York City debut along Long Island's indie rock band Arcy Drive, playing local venues, bars, restaurants, festivals, including the Huntington Paramount Stage, Arlene's Grocery, and various Breaking Sounds events. Izzy is currently studying songwriting at Belmont University, and continuing her love of performing and writing. And basically, end up that long intro. It's literally killing me right now. But welcome to the Talk of Fame podcast, Izzy. I'm super happy to have you on today. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thank you so much for having me on. This is super exciting.
Definitely. And I know this is like a very, cliche question. I know many people are like, why do you keep asking these questions? But I'm always so curious about this one. But what first got you kind of into music?
Yeah, I suppose when I was younger, I started taking, well, I loved singing. I would always sing from the time I was 3 and I could speak. And I started taking voice lessons when I was 8 years old, I think, only for a few years. And then I stopped when I was around 11 or 12. And then I started taking guitar lessons when I was 10. I took those for a few years as well, but I'm mostly self-taught in both sort of dynamics. And music has always just been a big part of my life. I've loved it since I was a little kid. And I realized I loved performing when I got a little bit older, more into like middle school, doing like the talent shows and singing in the choir and all that stuff. And yeah, then once high school hit, I really started writing my own music when I was in 8th grade and sort of, developing and working on that craft all through those years.
Ooh, like I'm kind of curious. Like, how did you kind of teach yourself like all like guitar and singing? Like, did you go do it for YouTube or how did you kind of do it?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely taking voice lessons helped with singing growing up, just to learn how to like, sing with proper, placement and like breath support and make sure you're not damaging your vocal cords and there's a proper way to sing so you don't hurt yourself. And also, I think with guitar, just sort of I would go on, like, the Guitar Tab app, and they have the chords for the songs there, and I'd look up the chord, and then I would teach myself how to play the song, or I'd look up, like, the tab on Guitar Tab, which is, it has, like, the detailed, like, description of how you, like, finger pick chords or, like, play a song or do a guitar solo, so I would just kinda teach myself through what I saw online, yeah.
Ooh, like it's crazy to kind of think how much social media plays an evolving role in social media and like songwriters and everything. Like you said, like top if it wasn't for like those apps and also like taking lessons and stuff, it really makes a songwriter's life so much easier than anything because like years ago, like we didn't have social media. Like social media really wasn't a thing. And if it was like today's generation, if we did have social media, like we wouldn't have self-taught ourselves. Like if it wasn't for other like videos or something, I'll be the absolute worst person in the world to come into like the podcasting world not knowing what's going on. So it's really, such a relief, to have, social media really help you, build if you don't want to do like classes or something in person.
Absolutely, yeah. Social media and the internet is a really incredible resource to connect with people online and just learn how to, DIY. There's a lot of things that you can teach yourself how to do from watching videos, and I think that's a super cool resource, especially for artists.
And I wanted to discuss with you, you're coming out with a new single called Can't End When You Never Was on November 17th. What was kind of like the
Yeah.
most, challenging thing about writing the song?
Oh, that's such a great question. I'm so excited for this single. It comes out in 2 days, well, 3 days. Comes out here in Tennessee at 11 p.m. Central Time. But, anyways, the most difficult thing about writing it was definitely just processing sort of the feelings that I had that I needed to express in the song, and also just being motivated to finish the last part of it. I remember the day I wrote it, my roommates had gone out to a show and they were like, come with us." And I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'll probably come. I'll probably show up." And then I just like had this overwhelming urge to just write this song, and I just sat down and kind of banged it out, almost all of it in like one go. And then I went back to it like a week later and I was like, "Oh, I don't really know if I want to finish it." Cause like sometimes once you start, it's a little hard to finish a song if you don't
Mhm.
really put your mind to it. So I was like, I need to go back and finish the bridge and the chorus. And I revised it. And I think that was the most difficult part, is just making sure I committed to finishing the whole story and the structure.
Like that's something that I really struggle with as well. Is that like if even if I want to do this thing at the moment, I might not want to go back to it weeks from now or days from now because I'm like the person that's like, okay, well, I want to do this right now, but then I'm like, I don't have the motivation to do this so and so later. Like I just sometimes I'm just a very lazy person to like, why do I have to finish this? This is so pointless. I'm sure it's the same for you as well. It's not like you just start something that you just become obsessed with, then you're just like, I don't give a one damn about it now, like days later.
I definitely used to be a bit more like that, in terms of committing to finishing things like music that I started. But I think now as I've gotten older, it's become easier for me to just tell a whole story. I wrote this song about a year ago at this time. So in just a year, I've experienced, I think, a lot of growth. And so when I start a project, I'm finishing it, I'm making sure that it's exactly how I feel and what I want to say.
Definitely. Like it's amazing to see how much you really grown here. Because like last year, well, now specifically, I'm just become lazy to do anything. Like whether it's like finishing, editing or doing schoolwork, or something I need to do. But then it's like you said, it really takes growth to really see how much I grow, as I said last year, writing something or editing something. It really sees how much you really grow in a matter of a year. Like really just, becoming very lazy to really do something that you really have to do. Like, okay, I want to release a song, for example. Like, how am I supposed to release a song if I do not have the motivation to finish it? Like, is a question for me.
Gotta commit to the bit. And yeah, I think also being in the winter season of when I wrote it, everyone's going into hibernation for the winter. We're all like, having that seasonal depression, or you feel unmotivated. It's dark at like 4 o'clock, so that definitely plays a part in my level of energy for
Yeah,
sure.
same here. Like it's already dark here now in Pennsylvania. I just like once I see the dark coming out like early now, especially during the winter time, I'm just like, I'm tired. Like I just want to go to bed. Like that's the only thing I wanted to do. But like
I
what
know I
is
completely.
yeah, and like what is kind of meaning behind the name can't and what never was?
Meaning behind it? Well, yeah, that's a great question. I So basically, this song is about dealing with the feelings and the aftermath of the end of a undefined sort of relationship, or AKA what people dub the situationship, that happens a lot in college, and I found myself in one of those situations where I had this relationship with someone and we weren't just friends, but we weren't dating. And it was like we didn't really say what was happening, but it was clear that it wasn't nothing. So that kind of was where the title came from. Because after we went our separate ways, I was kind of just left with like, well, I can't say that like we ended because we never even got started. Like, you can't end what never was because it essentially never was official. So that's kind of where I got the title. It was like, how do I explain you? That's what one of the lyrics is. How do I explain you? How do I explain this? Because you can't end what never was. Sort of trying to figure out how you're supposed to define who that person was in your life. It's a long
Ooh.
explanation.
It's all good. Like that seems like awesome. And that is something like I'm literally trying to figure out in my life as well. So that's definitely a song for me. Like if anyone is dealing with that, that's listening to this episode, let's check this song out. You definitely need it.
Those situationship issues, go
Yeah,
stream.
situation issues. Like I don't know how to define situation issues, but to say if people never been through it, from my from experience, it's hardcore and rough. Like it's rough. But like how do you kind of, manage to promote your work and write songs as an independent artist?
Definitely the biggest platforms for promotion for me have been through Instagram and TikTok. Social media apps really is like the biggest way to get your music and your name out there, and also just playing shows locally, like here in Nashville, or going to writers' rounds and events and meeting people and playing my stuff. And or from back in New York, like playing my stuff when I'm gigging or hopefully doing some shows. I've done a lot of shows, which I'm excited to do back home. That kind of stuff to help spread the word and promote has been pretty beneficial so far.
Definitely. Like, what has, been like the most like memorable, gigs they played, whether it's like down there in Nashville or like back home where you're from in New York?
Ooh, like the most memorable show.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, definitely, not probably, definitely. There's two that come to mind. The number one was definitely I opened for a band called Arcy Drive. They're from my hometown, Northport, Long Island, and yeah, I've known them for a little while, and they have a band, obviously, and they started, blowing up on social media and all that stuff, and they're going on tour, and I got the amazing opportunity to open for them at a sold out show. It's like 600 people at Bowery Ballroom in New York City in March of 2023. And that was just the most incredible show. It was the biggest crowd I've ever played for. The energy was amazing. Everyone was so kind. The band, like, those guys are awesome. It was just, the sound was amazing because it was like a venue with really high budget sound or high quality sound, I mean. And yeah, it was just a really amazing experience. And then I headlined at the End in Nashville in September. Played with artist Anna Grace Odom and Beeler, really cool indie folk pop artists, and it was just a great show. So much fun. My name was on like the marquee, which I was like freaking out about. I was like, I've never seen that before, and it was really, really special. So those are like the two like really monumental moments that have stuck in my mind.
Ooh, I'm literally so jealous. That's literally so cool. But like, what are some things you kind of wish, looking back when you first started, like kind of singing, songwriting and stuff, what would you kind of have done differently back when you started out?
Yeah, what I've done differently. I no one's ever asked me this question before. I really like it. I have not really many regrets when it comes to music because I try to see like every song that I've put out over the years as like who I was at the time and as like a representation of like my age during that time. Like the music I made at 16 is not what I'm making now at 19, which is not what I'm going to make when I'm 25 and I'm 30 and 40 and so on. You're going to change, but I don't regret it, but I would have probably not put out an entire EP in high school. I didn't have the platform where people were listening to my music really, and not that you need that to put out music, you don't need that at all, but, it wasn't a cheap endeavor, and I think I could have waited until the time was more right, but nonetheless, I still love those songs. Juniper and Place Called Home were on that EP, and those are 2 of my favorite songs. I wrote Place Called Home when I was in 8th grade and Juniper when I was, like, a sophomore in high school, so they're, like, just little time capsules of who I was at those ages, and I
Yeah.
would have released those, but I don't know about the other ones.
Yeah, like even if like you release them in high school, and like I know with a lot of people they do music like when they're in high school, and then they look back and like when they release it and they're like, let's just say in their mid-20s at like graduate college, they're like, why the heck did I post those in high school or middle school? Like it's so embarrassing. Why did I make those? They're so bad. But I feel like even if you release those, even if you don't have like a big platform, it can also really just boost your like platform in a way, releasing those songs. Even with Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and TikTok, it can really just help promote your brand. Even if you're just a small independent artist, barely have anyone listening, like it's really a big tool with social media to really promote those, even if you don't have a big following. That's what TikTok is for, like just promoting those
Absolutely.
songs. Like if it wasn't for TikTok, like during the pandemic, you wouldn't have, artists and the people in entertainment wouldn't have been, I don't know how to describe it, like been, I don't want to say as big, but it really just helped gain their platforms in a way.
Absolutely, absolutely. I definitely think there's been so many incredible artists and songwriters that I love that have sort of sprouted from TikTok, and I would like to hope in another world that they would have still had the success that they had without it, but who's to say? Because all it can take is one, viral video to change your life, and I haven't had one of those yet. The only video I've had gone, like, millions of views mega viral was like me making a meme about something that was nothing music related. That's always what happens. But yeah, definitely social media is a big tool, and I'll just keep making music and grateful for anyone who listens. And I've had immense amount of support. So I might be small, but I'm mighty and I'm ready to go, and I'm excited for the future.
Definitely. And like, do you ever think like you would sign with a label, or do you kind of like being an independent artist?
I definitely I definitely think that I'd like to remain independent for as long as possible. Um, Having a label can be fantastic, the opportunities that having a label backing you can grant you, and the sort of, maybe touring spots that you could achieve, like opening or with for other people, or the what's nice about a label is they'll give you, a loan to go on tour, to make music, and you hope that you make that money back in revenue from shows or from merch or from streams and album sales, but that's not always guaranteed. So I think I'd like to be independent for as long as possible so I can control sort of I guess, the financial being of that and all that stuff. But it definitely is a lot. It's a lot more work and promotion that you have to do on your own. You're really doing everything yourself without any support from a label, which is difficult. But I wouldn't be opposed at all. But I think it's a great idea to remain independent as long as you can until you get to a point where you can't anymore. Like you're getting too big.
Yeah. Like I totally get that because even if I do so many things as a person, like with me, like my schedule's always packed. I'm literally have so much things to do every day to really overbook myself. And like even with one it's really to the point where it's too much to handle for one person. Like one person doing
Yeah.
all the work. And it's like and sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I had someone to represent me. I wish I had like a manager or something. Like
Yeah.
but then also like basically every label or agency or something always comes with a price. It always comes with a
Yes.
price. So which things we sometimes people might have that might not have the money to pay for that, even though they really need it, or they might need to work, a couple of jobs to get that representation, which is can be very hard to handle for one person, but it's much needed if you have so much to do as a writer, as a journalist, or whatever it is. It can be so much to handle for just one person.
Absolutely. I'm a very big person with organization and schedules. I keep my schedule, got my calendar, my phone, my Google Calendar, my laptop. I'm always consulting it and making plans and making sure I try and stay organized so I don't feel overwhelmed.
No, I'm the same exact way. Even though sometimes I may overbook myself, don't get me wrong. I seriously love,
Me too.
I don't know if it's the same for you as well, but I love being busy and always doing something because if I don't, I'm really just be bored out of my mind. So it's always, be doing something, but sometimes, you have to do something relaxed every once in a while, do something fun besides doing work all the time. But, it's always good to, like just do work. Like you might as well
Absolutely,
do
yeah,
more. The more you do, the bigger you grow, I guess. I don't know.
absolutely.
But how has, music kind of impacted you growing up? Like, is there any artists or music that kind of impacted you?
Yeah, growing up, I loved a lot of different kind of music. I think I don't really come from a very musical. Actually, that's not true. I do come from a musical family. My grandparents, who unfortunately both passed when I was really young, so I don't remember them at all or even got to really meet them. But my mom's dad, my grandpa he was an actor and like a writer, and my grandma, his wife, was a singer in a band, and so they were both super artsy and into all that kind of stuff. And then my mom, she loves music, but she never really introduced me to a lot of music because she wasn't the one who was like the music lover as much as my dad was. And he was an artist and really into like, yeah, really into music and all that stuff. Unfortunately, he never really got to introduce me to a lot of it because he passed when I was 7. Um, but I kind of just introduced myself to a lot of music through like I would have like that's what I call music that like now that's what I call music like 37, I'm just making up numbers, like CD, those CDs that were like, "That's what I call music 62," I don't know, and it was like the new edition of like every year of like the top hits, and I would buy those CDs at like CVS and Target, and I would put them on my mom's car, and I loved a lot of pop, but then as I got older, I started to shift into like alternative and, old rock. I love the Beatles, I love Janis Joplin. I love those singer-songwriters like Sheryl Crow, Fiona Apple, like all those kinda awesome people, country and rock, and I have so many influences, but growing up, it definitely I was kinda like on my own discovering music, and it kinda came out of nowhere. Nobody else in my family played an instrument or anything. I just decided one day, I was like, "I love singing and playing guitar," and my family was like, "Okay."
Yeah,
Kinda
that was the
random.
same for me as well. Like my family, I don't really come from, artist family. I come from you more of a sporty family than artsy. I kind of grew up with, coming into my, like trying to figure out what I liked. I grew up like in pop music. I always like I had a babysitter and every time I would go somewhere, she used to have CDs in her car and I would be like, can you play it? Like, can you play one of those
Mhm.
discs or whatever, play this disc? And as I grew up, I always grew up with pop music. I love pop music. But as I got older, I started loving country music.
Yeah, I
And,
love country.
it kind of like rock and roll music, kind of a little more like Elvis Presley, a little bit of
Mhm.
AC/DC as well, like kind of like, those 90s, 80s type of music. I know people are like, what is a 17-year-old? Like those type of music. I'm like, don't get me wrong, those music are really classic, but
No,
that
I
just
love it. I wish everybody did. Those are like that's the foundation of so much great art.
how are you kind of enjoying Nashville and studying at Belmont?
I love it. It's been such a great experience. The people that I've met here have been absolutely incredible, and everybody is so talented, and it's just really cool to be surrounded by people that make great music and being able to meet with them and write with them. And I've made some incredible friends and met my boyfriend here, and yeah, it's been a really incredible experience, and I'm grateful to be here.
Oh, I love it because I'm looking at Belmont for college, so I'm definitely love to hear people's experiences at Belmont because I love Tennessee. So I'm like I have to hear and see what you think of it.
Yeah, I love Belmont. I think Belmont's great. There are things that people love and people don't like, and I could go into a whole separate interview about just that, but, um, it's great. It's a great school.
And if someone was visiting Nashville, it is looking for something to do, like what would you recommend?
Oh, that's a good question. I definitely would recommend seeing a show at I mean, if there's an artist you like that's in town, definitely finding out where they're at. There's a lot of amazing venues or even just local art like artists just playing. If you go to any venue, the End, the East Room, the Cobra, the Ryman, like any given day of the week, there's always someone performing. Though I don't frequent there often myself, like I feel like you have to go to Broadway. It's kind of just like a tourist rite of passage. I don't know. Stop on the Broadway strip. It's a lot of stuff going on there. Kind of reminds me of New York City anyway, because it's just
Yeah.
bars and drunk people and lots of music though. And the music is great. Like the people singing and the instrumentalists are very talented people and they work hard. And check out like some local coffee shops, Portland Brew, Frothy Monkey are two of my favorites. Um, Eat a Biscuit, Nashville Hot Chicken, all
Ooh,
that kind of stuff. Visit the Parthenon replica in Centennial Park. There's a lot of really cool stuff to see for sure, and lots of tourist things to do, lots of museums and other stuff like that if you're visiting.
I'll have to definitely check those out when I'm in Nashville at some point. Those sound so good. But like, how do you typically find inspiration to write songs?
Ooh, I definitely find inspiration in everyday life. I mean, I feel like when I was younger, I wrote a lot from my own experiences, and a lot of those songs were sort of centered around romance, whether that was heartbreak or like excitement of a new relationship. But as I've gotten older, I still, of course, write about those things. Um, but I definitely write a bit more about, you know, life, just, mental health related stuff or, getting older, or all the existential stuff or, um, just songs about many different topics and many different things, and I find inspiration kind of everywhere. Like, I wrote this song a little while ago, called "I Could Have Loved You." I wrote it last year, and I remember I was driving with, my boyfriend, we were driving, like, just to the gas, like, past a gas station, and the gas said it was 3.55 per gallon, and he was like, "3.55? I feel like I don't know, what gas keeps going up and going down and whatever." We're talking about gas prices, and I wrote down, um, "Gas went up to 3.55. You asked your cigarette out the window and complained about the price." That song isn't, like, about him, but just him saying that, and, like, that just was inspiration that I made up this whole song. So,
Ooh,
anything.
crazy. And the last thing I wanted to ask you before we head off is like, do you have any upcoming music that's coming out besides the 17th like this like 17th music and everything?
Yeah, well, so far just November 17th, can whenever was comes out, at midnight Eastern, and so if it's in your time zone, earlier than that, give me a shout, let me know how you like it, how you feel about it. Um, I'm working on recording a song after that, ideally to release in late January. Some more details on that coming in the future. But yeah, just kind of trying to release every few months here and there and put out music that I really care about and is intentional. And I feel like I used to like write a song and be like, oh my God, this is like the best song I've ever written. And then I would like instantly want to record it. And now I feel like I want to write songs and let them settle for a bit and see how I feel, see how other people enjoy them, and then decide what's, you know, worthy to me of like being shared with the world and being more intentional about that. And yeah, just working on writing and stuff like that, playing
Yeah,
shows.
definitely. And where can people before we head off, like where can people find you on social media if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, totally don't hesitate to reach out. I talk all the time, talk way too much. You can find me anywhere at Izzy, Izzy, Potter, Potter, just like the wizard. Get that all the time. Music. So Izzy Potter Music is my handle on all platforms: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. You can find me there. And Izzy
Amazing.
Potter on streaming platforms.
Perfect. Everyone go check her out. Like she and her music is absolutely amazing. I know that's a word I say, a lot. That's probably one of my favorite words, don't get me wrong, at this point. But thank you everyone for listening to this episode.
Thank you.
Everyone stays tuned for the next episode, whenever that may be. Who knows like when that's gonna release. But thank you everyone for listening. Make sure to stay tuned and listen to her single on the 17th. It's gonna be amazing. I'm definitely gonna tune in once it's released.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, thank you so much, Izzy, for coming on and chatting with us.
Thank
I'm
you,
super
Kelly.
happy to chat with you. You're awesome, and I'm super happy we got to chat with you today.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It was so great to meet and chat, and this was great. Thank
Oh,
you.
of course. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day and stay tuned for more episodes of more music by Izzy. Thank you so much and have a good rest of your day. Bye.